I have two brief questions I'd like to ask, if I may.
Hi, welcome to Left Foot Media. My name is Brendan Malone and you're watching The Daily Question. Today's question of the day: what do I think of the Trump Helsinki press conference? Now, this is the press conference where he made those now infamous and sort of worldwide headline-making comments about Russia and the American intelligence agencies and whether they were telling the truth or whether Putin was telling the truth. And the reason I'm asking this question is because someone actually asked me on one of my videos last week, what do I think about this? Brendan, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Tell me, what do you think? Well, I'll say three things about this. First of all, I don't know what to make of this. And I think it's quite a liberating and freeing thing to say that on social media, or to say that about something in the social media context, because one of the dangers, I think, of social media is that a lot of people are very easily fooled into thinking that they have to be an expert on everything. They have to know everything about everything that happens in the world, and then they have to comment on everything that happens in the world as if they are some great high priest or some important philosopher who is called upon and has a special vocation to pontificate about everything that happens in the world, when the simple fact is you just don't. It's actually quite okay to say that you don't know everything about everything, and I don't know what to make of this press conference. I really don't know. Is this the biggest blunder of Trump's presidency? I don't know. Is this proof of collusion that Russia has control of America? I don't know. Is this media bias? I don't know. Is this an attempt at diplomacy where you say one thing in a press conference and then you try and do some other backroom dealing somewhere else? I don't know. I just don't know. I'm not an expert on these matters. I just don't know what to make of all of this. And I think it's important that more of us have the honesty to just admit that we don't know everything about everything, and therefore we don't need to comment on every little thing that happens. I think it's quite interesting for me. I see a lot of this from, it's a sort of sidetrack a little bit, but I see a lot of this from the sort of what I would call the militant new atheist community online. And they have this sort of dogmatic fundamentalism about them. It's almost like a religious fervor where they are so certain in their certainty. 999, you are wrong. You silly people believing into flying spaghetti monsters. I am right. The science is king. It is our doctrine, you know? And it just this sort of dogmatic in your face certainty when the real world just doesn't work like that. Look, I know plenty of people who are atheists. I have connections with, I associate and connect with people who are atheists all the time. And I'm not an atheist, I'm a person of faith. And an honest atheist and an honest person of faith will tell you that life is just not that black and white. There's not that sort of dogmatic certainty about a lot of things. And so what that means is that for an honest atheist, just like an honest theist, the whole thing is you take a gander at the evidence, you weigh it, you look at the philosophy and the arguments being made, and then you make what you think is the most reasoned decision about this big question of the existence of God. And then as you carry on throughout your life, there are moments, there are things that you encounter which will cause you to question the beliefs you hold, that will present challenges, and there are other moments that will strengthen those beliefs that you hold about those issues. And that's true for people who are agnostics, atheists, and theists. Like me. So this whole idea of this dogmatic certainty and I know everything about everything is just, it's kind of crazy. And like I said, it's not just militant new atheists, that's a bit of a sidetrack. But the point is it's just everywhere on social media now. It's this sort of tendency to think that you've got to be an expert on everything and you've got to have an opinion on everything and you should know, or just because, you know, social media is available to you now, you know, you've got a special calling to sort of pontificate about everything. When the simple fact is, you know, being totally honest, I don't know what all this means and I don't really know what to make of it. However, there are two other things I will say about this. Firstly, the way the mainstream media has been conducting itself in the last few years in particular, what am I supposed to make of the information that's being presented to me? Because I now have to filter that information through mainstream media that I no longer have much in the way of faith in. I don't have much trust in the reliability of the information that they give me, and it's their track record. It's a consistent problem now. It's ongoing for a whole lot of reasons I'm not going to get into and relitigate it here. But what it means is when you are presented with a very clear set of opinions and supposed facts about an issue, are they actually an accurate representation or a fair and balanced representation of what's really going on here? Or is this merely just another example of the politicisation of the media? It's sort of hard to know now that faith in the information that we are being transmitted to us, or that's being transmitted to us now, that's largely gone. And so when you have an incident like this, I think you've got to factor that in. It's foolish to be sort of this blind devotee of every piece of information that suits your political agenda. Often, my sort of rule of thumb now is if something sounds too good to be true, then it probably is. And that's true, I think, whether it's someone offering you $1 million if you just get in touch with the deposed king of Nigeria and give him your bank account details, or whether that's someone telling you something that just seems too good to be true about a political cause that you believe in or one that you are alternately opposed to. And so I think it's always important to remember that what we are being presented isn't necessarily a balanced or an accurate piece of coverage of the events. Now, what we did see from Helsinki, I mean, it's weird. It's just weird. What do I make of this? Is this Trump sort of gaffing his way through something? Is this Trump proving that he's a puppet? Is this Trump trying some attempt at diplomacy? I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, it's okay to admit that you don't know. And number three, and this is, I guess, the most salient point for me, is why now all of a sudden is there this extreme moral grandstanding about the idea of a foreign nation trying to influence the outcome of the elections of another nation? I don't understand now why there's this grandstanding, particularly from people in America. It's not just America, but most big nations have been doing this for many decades now, and they are still doing it. They are more than happy to try and bring their influence to bear to shape the directions of other nations. America has a long history, a long-standing history of doing this. So why now all of a sudden is there this great concern with the idea of a foreign nation trying to shape the outcome of an election in a different country? It's just so bizarre to me. The hypocrisy here is just astounding. Now, I know there are probably some people who want to say, oh, but this is America, man. We're on the side of Jesus and apple pie, so it's all good when we do it, because we're bringing the democracy, man. It's all good. But like, you look at the history. We're talking about a history of sponsoring regime change, as it's sort of euphemistically known, and sort of involving themselves in coups and rebel, violence and other things. It's just so bizarre to me that all of a sudden now this is going to be the moral hill that we sort of must die on. And when Russia does it, oh no, that's wrong because they're the bad guys, man, and this is evil and wrong. But when we're doing it, and Obama's been involved in it, the Trump regime no doubt is still involved in it, the Bush regime, the Clinton regime, just keep going back. There's a long history of American involvement in these things, and so I just find the whole thing so bizarre now that there is this weird sort of moral grandstanding about the idea of a country trying to influence another nation's elections. And on top of that, with the way the media has played this thing out and just, so much misinformation and weird sort of rabbit holes that they've gone down. What do we even know is true anymore? I mean, I'm sort of not even sure where the actual accusations are now at. Is the suggestion now that Trump is a robot who was pre-programmed by Putin? Is it that he paid for social media advertising that influenced things? Is it that he was digging up dirt? Is it that he actually rigged the ballot box and the voting outcome? There's just so much misinformation and contrary information flying around the place about this. It's hard to even ascertain what's true anymore. So that just adds to the whole uncertainty of the situation. Like I said, it's quite liberating and freeing to be able to say, I just don't know. I don't know everything about everything, and I don't have to know everything about everything, and neither do you. We're not experts on everything, and one of the dangers with social media is that we can fall prey to thinking that, like I said, that we are an expert about everything, that we know everything about everything. And with the way in which the speed of information transfers and flies around the internet these days, we can think we are relatively well informed. And the way in which political bias now shapes so much, again, we can think we're relatively well informed when we're not. I think it's actually quite important for more of us to sort of take a step back and just say, look, I don't know whether it's Obama or whether it's Trump or whoever it is or whatever it is you're asking me to pass judgment on. I don't know everything about everything, and probably therefore it's not in my or anybody else's best interest for me to be jumping on social media and acting like I do know definitively what's going on in these situations. The whole thing just seems weird to me. As per usual, I'd love to hear your thoughts though, so please let me know what you think in the comment section below. And if you like the content I'm creating and you'd like to see more of it, then please support me on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. There's a link in the description below and a link on screen at the end of this video. That's right, I can hear my theme music too. I'll see you tomorrow on The Daily Question.